In today's video, we're going to talk about the 3 reasons that are quietly killing your confidence. Sometimes men struggle and we don't know why we struggle. And so today I want to break down for you why you're holding yourself back from success in life and in business. Have you ever set a goal before and you were just trying so hard to achieve this goal and you couldn't figure out why you couldn't achieve it? Have you ever set a financial goal and you couldn't figure out why you couldn't achieve it? There's a reason for that. And I'm going to break down these 3 reasons for you and how they are holding you back. And I believe that once you learn these reasons, everything in your life is going to change. When I first got into entrepreneurship, when I first started building my business, I struggled a lot mentally. I just didn't have the right mindset and I didn't understand psychology and how my mindset was holding me back. And it held me back for years. And I don't want that to be you. And so I'm hoping that by the end of this video, you're going to have the answers so that you can start moving forward with confidence and trust in yourself. So let's get into it. The first reason that men struggle is because of the paradox. Specifically, you are held back by the paradox between what you consciously desire and what you subconsciously believe. So let me give you an example. When I was building my business back in 2020, I was involved in a course by Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, and I was doing everything I could to build this business. I had done the landing pages, I was doing everything on the back end, I had all the links, everything to build this little mastermind that I was working on, recorded the videos for the landing page, posted some content here and there, and then crickets. Nobody was buying, didn't make any sales, didn't get any leads. I couldn't figure it out and I didn't know why. Well, for one, I didn't post enough to get people in. I didn't really know what problem I was solving, but that's another conversation for a different day. What really held me back was my beliefs. I had a desire that I spoke out with my words. I want to build a business. I want to create success. But on the other side, my brain was telling me, what if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? What that's called in psychology is cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the mental tension between what you say you want versus what you actually believe. And you'll be surprised. This holds a lot of men back from achieving their goals and doing something big in life. And we don't realize it. And it's because our bodies and our minds are set up this way. So let me show you and give you an example of what that actually looks like. We're going to draw a picture here so that you can see what this looks like. So let's just say we have Jimmy here. Hopefully you can see this. Let me redo that. So we have Jimmy. And we're going to give him a name here. And Jimmy wants to make $10,000 a month. This is what he keeps telling himself. He wants to make $10,000 a month. But on the other side, we have Jimmy's brain. All right, this marker is not working. Let's try and use a better marker here. Okay. Back to drawing Jimmy. Jimmy wants to make $10,000 a month. And then we have over here Jimmy's brain. I know it's not the best drawing, but you get the idea. We got Jimmy's brain, and Jimmy's brain's saying, what if I fail? Okay? This is what most of us are going through and what we're dealing with. Maybe you are here right now. You want to do something in life. You want to have more confidence. You want to build a business. You want to leave the 9 to 5. But on the other side, you're saying, what if I fail? What if this doesn't work out? That is creating mental tension. And that mental tension is expensive. It's holding you back from achieving everything that you want to achieve in life. It's holding you back from achieving your financial goals, your business goals, your fitness goals, your marriage goals. And it's going to cause you to do a couple things that you don't realize are happening on the surface. Okay? When you have this mental tension, you are going to procrastinate. And you're going to self-sabotage. Let me explain why. When you are setting a goal to do something you've never done before, your body is sensing that as a threat. So what happens is when Jimmy wants to set a goal of earning $10,000 a month, his brain and his body is saying, what if I fail? It's going to default him into procrastination and self-sabotage. This is your nervous system. Your nervous system is like a mechanism to detect threat. Now, obviously, building a business that earns $10,000 a month is not a physical threat. It's not like running from a bear or a lion, but it's a threat to your nervous system because it's a threat to your identity. It's a threat to your identity. You haven't become the person who could have that $10,000 a month business. You haven't become the person who can trust in yourself and make decisions. So what's going to happen is you are going to procrastinate and self-sabotage. And so this is essentially your fight or flight. You probably heard of that before. So whenever you set a goal or try to pursue something you've not done and it's really beyond your capacity, you are either going into fight or flight mode. And I know that you don't want to flee from that, right? You want to build a business. You want to do the hard thing. So you're going to fight it and you're going to push through it. That's essentially you facing your fears. Now, I want to bring up some scripture here where we can actually see this happening in real time. Okay? So in Mark chapter 9, we see that a father has a son who's demon possessed. And I'm just going to share a couple of scriptures here with you. It's verse 23 and 24. And in 23, let me pull it up here. Okay. In Mark chapter 9, 23, it says, well, let me give you some context here. So the man said to Jesus in verse 22, he says, and it has cast him into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, okay, that was the key there. If you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. So the man said, if you can. And Jesus said to him, verse 23, if you can, all things are possible for one who believes. Okay, that's important. And then verse 24, the father said, immediately the father of the child cried out and said, I believe, help my unbelief. Ooh, that is really good. So what do we see here? We see the father, just like Jimmy. The father had done everything he could to deliver his son from that demon. He went to the disciples and they couldn't do it. And you can only imagine that he's done stuff on his own and seeking help from other people to deliver his son, his child, and nothing worked. So we see that the father said to Jesus, if you can. And then he says, I believe, but help my unbelief. So what's going on there? Let's break this down. So the father says he wants his son healed and delivered, right? But on the psychology point of view, his identity, his doubts are saying, what if it doesn't work? What if it can't happen? We've tried everything we could and it's not working. He had mental tension, which is why he said, I believe, but help my unbelief. He didn't fully believe in that Jesus could actually do it, or that something could happen and heal his son, deliver his son. So the father was struggling with some doubt. Okay? He was struggling with doubt because he didn't believe, but there's a reason for that. Just like when you are trying to build a business or do things like Jimmy here, and you're asking these things, what if I fail? And you procrastinate and self-sabotage. The father had unbelief, not because he didn't truly believe it could happen, but he wanted to protect himself from disappointment. He wanted to protect himself from disappointment. He didn't want to be disappointed, right? Because have you ever done something a few times and it didn't work, and then you just kind of say, oh, I'm going to try, and if it works, it doesn't. There's no one to blame. There's no one to blame, and it's, if it didn't work, it's not your fault. So that is the same mechanism there. It's protecting you, your nervous system. His nervous system was protecting him from disappointment. And we can see that clearly in this passage of scripture, that the man was going through the struggle here from that cognitive dissonance from what he wanted and desired, but what he actually believed. Now, let's go over the second reason that men are struggling. Okay, so the second reason that men struggle is because of the paralysis. So many of you think that you're being wise by planning and thinking and strategizing, but the truth is you are held back by the paralysis of planning that you have disguised as wisdom. So the things going on here is you don't need more strategy, you don't need more wisdom. And now my markers don't want to work. So, you don't need more strategy, you don't need more thinking, you don't need to pray longer. The problem is you have disguised planning as wisdom, and it's holding you back. So, let me break this down for you. The Latin root for decision means to cut off. When you make a decision, you are cutting off all other options and possibilities. It's essentially like burning the boats, right? You are removing all other options and possibilities from distracting you. The problem is your indecision is holding you back. Because you just have to commit. You know what you have to do. You know that the one thing that if you did it, you would actually get results. But the problem is you are held back by fear because of your nervous system, because of your internal beliefs, just like we talked about in our last point. So you have to cut off all other options, because guess what? Indecision is a decision. You are holding yourself back. And the only way that you're ever going to have confidence in the thing that you know you have to do is by taking action. Action, then confidence. You cannot get confidence first and then take action. It doesn't work that way. It's just like when you wanted to first ask out a girl, right? You gain confidence by asking her out, okay? Take action, then have confidence, okay? When you take action, you have clarity. If you stay in the same position, doing the same thing, you're never going to get clarity. In order for you to get clarity, you need to take action. So this reminds me of a verse here, James 2:17. Faith without works is dead. If you don't pair your faith and action, if you don't pair those together and do the things that you know you need to do, you're never going to have clarity and you're never going to have the confidence. And then you're going to be stuck in indecision. You have to be willing to take action and do the hard thing. Remember, being broke is hard. Reaching out to people is hard. Building a business is hard, but so is working a 9-to-5 for 40 years. So is being stuck. You have to pick your heart, okay? If you want to be free, you have to be willing to take the actions that are going to get you to that point, okay? So if Jimmy wants to earn $10,000 a month, he needs to take action and make a decision and pair his faith with that action together so he can close that mental gap. So again, let's go back to Jimmy. Let's talk about Jimmy again, just really quick before we move on. So Jimmy and his brain. So Jimmy wants to earn $10,000. His brain says, what if? Now, the only way to close this gap is action. Execution. It's being resourceful. I think I spelled that right, but you get the idea. Resourceful, action, and then when you take action, when you execute, when you become resourceful, these doubts, they go away. They go away. Why is that? Because you are becoming the person. You are becoming the person. This is the be, do, have principle. We don't have time to go over that. Be, do, have. This is you changing and expanding your identity. So if you want to be stuck here, actually, hold on. I have to go. I'm going to show you. Let me see. Okay, that's the next point. I'm getting ahead of myself here. We'll talk about that in a second, what I was thinking, but Jimmy has to expand his identity to get to that $10,000 a month. And so if Jimmy does not do that, he's going to be stuck. And the only way to expand his identity, the only way to expand your identity is by taking action. Because if you don't, you're going to be stuck in indecision. You are disguising indecision or planning as wisdom. And it's really just fear disguised as wisdom. And it's holding you back. You have to get past that if you want to see results. Okay, let's dive into number 3 here. I really hope that this is making sense for you, because this is the thing that was holding me back. This is the thing that I started to realize later on in my life, that I was holding myself back. And I remember one time I went to Starbucks with my pastor who was mentoring me and helping me out. And he says to me very kindly, Joseph, do you think that you need to get out of your own way? I didn't know what that meant at the time. And I don't even think he was applying some of the principles we're talking about here in psychology. But he was talking about just getting past my fear, getting out of my own way and just taking action and going for it. And I didn't realize that until later on in my life. And this was, what, four and a half years ago? All right. So the third reason that men struggle is the projection. You are being held back by the projection of your past identity onto your future opportunities. So number 3 here. Clearly, I need to get more markers. The projection. This is a big one, and you have to understand this, because this is one of the things that will hold you back in a very big way. So in 2020, like I mentioned, I was working on building a business. I had invested into a course. I had some help here. And I was doing all of the right things. But the problem was I was projecting, oh man, this is so good. I didn't have this revelation until last year, or 2024, 2025, I forget. I think it was last summer. I didn't realize I was doing this, but I was projecting my own financial struggles onto my buyers. What? So I wasn't selling to people. I was selling through my own limited identity. And my nervous system was trying to protect me from rejection. It was trying to protect me from failure. So I wasn't feeding into my future with, positive outcomes, desired outcomes. I was projecting onto myself these limiting beliefs about my own financial struggles. And I was doing that, projecting that onto people. So basically what that was going on and what was going on in my head was, there's not anybody that's going to be willing to pay me. There's nobody that's going to pay me thousands of dollars to help them have a transformation. And so I was projecting those limiting beliefs about my own financial struggle onto those buyers, and therefore I had no business. And that was also the cognitive dissonance that I was experiencing at that time. And so you have to really understand this, because your beliefs are going to shape your reality. Okay? And your beliefs, let me explain it this way. Your beliefs come from stories that you tell yourself. Just like me, I was telling myself that nobody was going to be able to buy anything that I put out there. Nobody was going to invest into this program. And so those stories became my reality. Those stories became what I was experiencing. So I want to show you what this looks like. I'm going to draw a picture here. And let's say, for example, we have Jimmy A, and we have a frame, and we have another frame, and we have Jimmy B. Jimmy A, and well, I forgot to preface this with, let's say they both are going through financial struggles. Jimmy A and Jimmy B are both going through financial struggles. But here's the difference between them. Jimmy A says, I'm broke. I'll never be rich. Or he might say, why does this happen to me? Okay, Jimmy A says that. Jimmy B says, what principles can I learn to get out of this situation? So, do you see the difference here between Jimmy A and Jimmy B? One of them says, I'm broke, I'm struggling, why does this happen to me? But the other Jimmy is saying, what principles do I need to learn to get out of this situation, to overcome my financial situation? Listen, they're both going through the same financial struggles, but they have completely different outcomes. Why is that? Their beliefs. Just like I was like Jimmy A. I was praying and getting angry at God. I was like, God, why won't you bless me? Why won't you help me build a business? Why can't I get people to pay me? And I was projecting my own limiting beliefs onto my buyers and all of that stuff that was just holding me back. So I had these limiting beliefs, and that was holding me back. Again, same situation, different outcomes. So you have to understand this, because you may be in a situation in your life right now where you are experiencing something or going through something and you're holding yourself back. So completely different outcomes. But here's the thing that you have to understand. So let's say, for example, Jimmy A wants to become Jimmy B. What does he have to do? Okay, so we know that our identity, if it's not been expanded and we're not becoming the person who could earn $10,000 a month or get out of our financial situation, it's virtually impossible to change the situation. You have to change your thoughts, your beliefs, and behaviors. You have to change these in order to get to here. In order to get your desired outcome, you have to change your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Let's look at Jimmy A for a second. His thoughts are, I'm never going to be rich. I'm going to be broke forever, or I'm better off broke. His beliefs are, I can never get out of this situation. I believe I'm here for a reason, or whatever. His behaviors support those thoughts and his beliefs. So he doesn't manage his money. He doesn't focus on building assets. He doesn't focus on creating offers. He doesn't focus on creating opportunities. And so Jimmy A is going to be stuck for the rest of his life. But Jimmy B has a completely different outlook, which gives him a completely different result. Are you understanding what I'm saying here? This is so important to understand. How you frame your situation determines the outcome. How you frame your situation determines the outcome. Here's the other thing. Your current identity does not equal your future. Your current identity does not equal your future. Where you are right now doesn't mean let me rephrase that. Where you are right now in life, that does not define your future. Where you are right now does not define your future. In order to get to your future, you have to, like we said, change your thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. Are you with me? Your current identity does not equal your future. Okay, let me give you some scripture. I have a scripture I'm going to share with you, but I'm going to share something from the book of Exodus. When the Israelites were being delivered from Egypt, they struggled to receive God's goodness and grace. God gave them everything. They saw miracles. They had manna come down from heaven. They were fed every single day. And yet, they didn't believe. They were more comfortable being slaves than they were being free. God delivered them out of Egypt, but Egypt was not delivered out of them, and so they were slaves. They were slaves in their thoughts, beliefs, and behavior. Oh my goodness. And so God was taking them through the wilderness so that he could do one thing: change identity. God wanted to change their identity. He wanted to transform them and mold them into his people. And they turned an 11-day journey into 40 years. What? So, if you want to have success like Jimmy B, and let's say Jimmy B is now earning $10,000 a month, say what? You have to change your identity. You have to become the person who can do the thing. You have to take on the thoughts, the beliefs, and the behaviors of somebody who is already earning $10,000 a month. You have to act like them, you have to believe like them, and behave like them. Because where you currently are is not going to get you to your future. That's what I was trying to say a moment ago when I was stuck. Your current self, your current identity, your current thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors will not get you to your future. Now I'm going to share the principle with you from Matthew chapter 9, verses 16 and 17. This is going to blow your mind. So, if you have a Bible, I would really recommend you flip to it, open your phone, highlight it, and this principle is going to change the way you look at things. So it says here, no one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment, for the patch tears away from the garment, and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. If it is, the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved. What's going on here? Jesus is telling us that you cannot put new wine into old wineskins, because the old wineskins have expanded, because the wine before was fermented and it expanded. When you put new wine into old wineskins, it's going to expand even more because it's fermenting, and it's going to explode and burst. Okay? You can't put a piece of unshrunk cloth. So a cloth that has already been shrunk a little bit from being washed, it cannot go on a new garment because it's going to tear away. I'm sorry, an old garment. I think that's what I said. I forget. Okay, so no one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth. Okay, that's the new one, sorry. No one puts a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. So the new cloth does not go on an old garment because it's going to tear it away. Okay, now how does this apply to what we're talking about here? This is important to understand. Again, everything we just said here is exactly what Jesus is telling us as far as the principle behind this. Your old identity, let me see, your current identity cannot get you to the promised land. Your current identity, your old identity, based off the principle we just read from Matthew chapter 9 here. Chapter 9? Yes. Your old identity, your old behaviors or old beliefs cannot get you to the promised land because it's not compatible. Just like new wine is not compatible with an old wineskin, you are not compatible in the promised land with your old identity. So you have to change that. You're changing your projection, the way you project yourself, the way that you're projecting onto yourself. It's your internal beliefs. Just like we discovered with cognitive dissonance, you are not in alignment with what you desire and what you're saying that you want. With what you desire versus what you believe, versus what you believe. So you have to become the person who is in alignment, because without that alignment, without changing your identity, without doing that, it's impossible to get to the promised land. And you have to understand, it's very uncomfortable when you expand your identity, become that person. But it starts with you taking action. You have to take action. So I really hope that this video blessed you. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and comment down below what really stood out to you and what you're going to start working on. If you're interested in becoming part of a community of like-minded believers and individuals who want to gain trust in yourself, gain confidence, and start taking action on the ideas and the things that God is placing in your heart so that you can become a man who provides for your family, leads, creates a legacy, builds freedom, then join the newsletter down below. I send out daily emails in a non-spammy way so that you can start applying the principles that we're talking about here. So you can start taking action. So if you want to join, click the link down in the description, join the newsletter, and I can't wait to see you on the other side. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.